The Kritya Music Ensemble is a group of musicians who are based in North America, who all practice Carnatic music, and myself, a Kuchipudi dancer. We are all grounded in tradition, but we also choose to continue to push boundaries in Carnatic music and Kuchipudi dance at the same time. What really inspired me to create the Kritya ensemble is when I was really little and I was training under my guru, late Dr. Shobha Naidu, I had plenty of opportunities to work with live musicians, and I used to watch her effortlessly collaborate with all the live musicians during her time. And she would always, because I'm trained in Carnatic music, and she noticed my love for Carnatic music, and she would appoint me to produce music, to work with musicians back in India. And I loved this process, but when I moved to the United States, that stopped. And I've been missing that process of questioning, collaborating, and exploring new pieces. And though it is an expensive endeavor, my soul was really craving for this collaborative experience. And also, there were many national festivals across the US. At the same time, funnily, when they were inviting me, they were saying to me, it is mandatory to have live musicians for you to perform. But they also gave me the budget so I could pay my musicians. And this kind of smoothly segued into my soul craving for Carnatic music, but also the external world was asking me to create an ensemble indirectly. So I took that as a cue to create the live music. And last point, my mentor also told me, stop performing other people's pieces. Start exploring your own pieces. She believed in me. She believed in my vision, my mentor, Dr. Katyayani Kanak. And because I'm performing only my works now, especially, and the music is not available for the pieces I'm creating. So obviously, I have to gather musicians and produce work from scratch. So this is why I have created the Kritya Music Ensemble, to explore my original work, also because I missed working with live musicians, but also the outside world was demanding me to bring musicians with me as I was performing. All of the pieces we create as part of the Kritya Music Ensembles are choreographed and musically arranged by me. I compose the jatis and some melodies if I have enough knowledge about that particular raga. And then my musicians come into the collaborative process and they suggest edits, and this is how the magic is created. What I envision to see for Kritya Music Ensemble and the Dance Ensemble is to continue to grow, so I can create these dance dramas where the music and dance ensemble can collaborate together, while we also continue to represent the Carnatic music tradition and the Kuchipudi tradition at the same time in all these prestigious music and dance festivals on a global level, so both of these traditions continue to thrive in our artistic landscape.
I feel like there's a lot of artists these days who are like trained in traditional dance forms or music forms, but they do a lot of, crossover. I mean, I do a lot of crossover in my own work, but there's very few people who I think are like honoring the tradition and sort of doing justice to what these artistic traditions are about, while also exploring other things. And I think what Yamini is doing with her work is really interesting because she has such a strong foundation and so much respect for what she's learned, but she also does want to push her own boundaries and push us as an ensemble. So I think it's a really unique situation to be in, because I know a lot of people who play with other dancers or dancers who work with other musicians who don't have that approach that is simultaneously like excited to break barriers, but also like really, really respectful of what's already there. And that's one of the reasons that I actually said yes to singing something really, really classical, which I haven't done in many, many years, but I just really liked what Yamini is about. and what we talked about in our first meeting, and it was just like, it felt right, and it's a lot of fun. So what I love about working with Yamini and Kritya is everybody does have a really, really good sense of humor. And I mean, if anybody knows Yamini, she is for sure a taskmaster, and you'll get the side eye in rehearsal if you're not doing what, is part of her really, really clear vision. Of course, she's always open to like changing stuff up. But I don't know, it's nice. She reminds me in some ways of like my grandmother, who was a dance teacher and really, really strict, but also it's just a bunch of friends hanging out and like making music and dance and art together. And I think there's a really good balance of that. And the pieces are really fun, and she isn't looking for someone who is approaching it in the most traditional way. I grew up with a mother who's been singing for dance for like 35 years, and she's incredible. And so already for me, it's like, oh my God, I'm not going to sound like her. But, Yamini didn't call me because she wants me to sound like someone else. She wants me to sound like me. And I really like that, because each person that's in the group brings like a uniqueness to themselves. And it's about making space for all of us and what we sound good doing, rather than like, no, it's not supposed to be done this way, or this is how it's usually like, or my teacher said, or whatever. So it really just does feel like you're going into play with a band and just, sit. So it's really nice that we get to, it's really nice that we just get to relax and feel, at ease doing this stuff, rather than like, okay, I have to count repetitions or whatever. Everybody's skilled enough to just kind of go with the flow and make room for each other. And also, mostly, it's just really, really nice to watch Yamini dance. She's amazing. I was born and raised in the United States as an Indian American, first or second generation, whatever you call us. And I met a lot of traditional dancers, like people who have been here before my parents' generation, my generation, after me. And there's so many dancers who do Kathak, Bharatanatyam, but there's not a lot of dancers that live in the States that I know of who are doing Kuchipudi at this level, with this level of professionalism in terms of how they interact with musicians, how they teach, how they work with other artists. Yamini is the only person I know that is doing like this really, really high quality dance, but also, again, pushing boundaries and exploring the form in a really, really respectful way. And I think for the level of support, that we tend to give to other art forms, I think it'll be really, really, really great to keep this tradition alive in the States. And Yamini is like the torchbearer for this tradition, I feel like, in the United States. And it's like such an honor for us to be able to work with her and help her keep this tradition alive and going. And I think whatever we can do to keep these classical arts alive is great, yeah.
So I started by learning dance. I started when I was around 4 years old. I started with the Indian traditional dance form Bharatanatyam. And then roughly when I was around like 9 or 10, I started learning Mridangam, which is a South Indian traditional drum, the double-sided pitched drum. And I kind of lived between both of those worlds. There is a lot of rhythm between that exists both in, like the percussion landscape and the Carnatic music world, as well as also dance and all of the Indian traditional dance styles. There's so many forms of rhythm that exist, and that was really something that drew me into both of them. And around the time when I was in maybe college, I started kind of experimenting, working with other people, collaborating, finding different outlets for all of these interests, and one of them was working with dance ensembles and particularly doing Nattavangam, which is the cymbal kind of and vocal percussion conducting of a dance performance. Yeah. So what I love about conducting kind of the dance ensemble and this world in the Kritya ensemble is really being the connection point between musicians and the dancer. And I think that's a really interesting, like, kind of pivotal place to be, because if you look at my particular role, it often from the outside doesn't look like there's a lot happening. But I think it's a really high responsibility role, and it's as both a musician and a dancer, it's a role I really enjoy, because I get to learn so much about dance and be engaged in the dance in a way that I think as a complete musician is sometimes harder to do, and also get to be a part of the musical side and interact with all of the fellow musicians that I have kind of around me in a way that sometimes I think a dancer is not as easily able to do because they're focused on kind of the visual experience. Kritya is just like a fantastic space. I've been a part of this group in multiple iterations of musicians and people, and gotten to meet so many people through this community. And even though we are like an ensemble and a performing ensemble, I think the network of individuals and just the good people I've gotten to meet has been in sometimes a rarity in the Indian traditional arts space. These are good people who want to create good music and have an interest in creating so much more and presenting this art form and all of this as an ensemble work particularly to an audience that sometimes is familiar and sometimes isn't familiar. And I think that itself is just like as an artist, regardless of a dancer or a musician, it's something that's so unique right now, and it's just a really a huge joy to work with.
So I started learning when I was, I think, about 3.5 or 4 years old, and I mean, this was told by my mother that apparently I used to, whenever I listened to songs, I used to kind of tap along with the rhythm and kind of follow the beat and stuff. So my father thought that I should be taught mridangam, and then they looked for a guru, and then he was very particular that I start learning very soon, and then that's when I started learning, and then so I learned till I was in 12th standard. Then after I went to Pune for my higher studies, there was a lot I discovered about music. I started listening a lot more. Then I really understood what how special whatever I have learned is, and what I can do with that was so, and the feeling that I was getting out of it was so amazing that I wanted to like take it even further. And so I again started taking advanced lessons. Yeah, the connection with music has been very strong since then, and it just grows stronger. So yeah, basically my understanding of music and connection with music grew very strong during my college days at Pune, and I wanted to take it further and pursue music even more seriously, and that's when I started taking advanced lessons, and then continued performances and jamming with fellow musicians, and then my bond with music has just grown stronger. Yeah. You know how they say the whole is larger than the sum of the individual parts? That would perfectly describe what we do with the Kritya Ensemble. It's all of us bring our own sets of skills and perspectives about music to the table, and how we all come together to put up our creative work that narrates certain untold stories or certain concepts that are not explored as much. I think all of this makes the Kritya Music Ensemble a very special ensemble. The most special thing about the Kritya Music Ensemble is that all of us are really good friends outside of the creative work that we do, and given that the kind of creations and the artwork that we do involves a lot of spontaneity and communication on stage, that I think improves a lot with this friendship that we have with each other. The chemistry and the comfort that we have with each other in communicating, I think that reflects a lot in what we put up when it comes to our our pieces. I think deep connection with creative art forms really transforms the way you approach life and the way you think. And the deeper you go, the more you realize there is a lot more to discover and uncover. So I think for youngsters who are just interested in the art form, I think delving deeper also adds new facets to life, and it in some way has a positive feedback loop in all aspects of your life, and not only just the art form that you're training in and stuff. So I think it's very important to stay connected um, with art forms, and specifically the Indian art forms, which is heavily rooted in the culture and the heritage. And you'll also learn a lot about how a lot of these experiences were shared and how these stories were told in the music and the dance form. So it is definitely important to stay connected with your roots while learning a lot through actually like practicing the art form. Yeah, that's why I think the Kritya Music Ensemble is playing an important role in showcasing the power of practicing these art forms and sharing their experiences with everyone, and using art to bring people together and have conversations about various things like experiences, culture, tradition, and so on. So it is actually very pleasing to see the kind of reception that we get, especially among the people who are not introduced to these art forms but are very curious and interested. And those conversations are, I think, very important. For example, we performed in New York at a church for a fundraiser show. It was full of audience, most of whom were not really introduced to the details or the specificity of how these art forms work, but still they could feel something from whatever we did. And post the concert, we had interactions where they were interested in knowing, okay, what was the mridangam doing there, and and they were really interested to know about the spontaneity aspect, and also about the stories that were told with the performances. So I think those conversations are really important to have for bringing different cultures and different people from different backgrounds together, and use art form as the platform to do that.
So I play the Indian Bansuri flute. I'm originally from Chennai. I've been learning for like 20 years now. Learned from my grandfather initially, and coming to the US, I've been playing, all the different forms of music like Hindustani, Carnatic, and specifically in this program, I'll be playing the Carnatic style of flute with some elements of like Hindustani Bansuri flute sounds there as well. So I work in the tech. I work as a product manager, and music is something that I grew up with, and it's really a lot of fun meeting all these amazing artists, and I get to share my music with them, really collaborate and have a good time. And that's probably the only reason why I still play the flute and have a good time meeting all these people. I enjoyed the team that I was working with. Obviously, when first Yamini messaged me on Instagram, I've been following the work of Kritya Ensemble for a while, and it was really amazing to even get the opportunity to play for them and be a part of the team. I think it's not just about doing things in a traditional way and not improvising or innovating. I think the team here, the dancers, all the musicians, we want to make something really big. We want to do something new, something innovative, use all our expertise in our respective things, come together and do something amazing. And I believe we are doing that. So that's really what I love doing here. 100%. So the music that we play is obviously, it's been there from the country India for a long time, and obviously all the ancient things gets passed on with music, all these compositions that we learn and things like that. And if culture is something that I personally value, and this is a great way for us to pass on the culture tradition to the next generation. So the music obviously is a language by itself, and specifically in this ensemble, what we do is we kind of combine the dance stories with the music. And you might have actually seen in many of the stories that Yamini is doing, we kind of give those effects to get the story out. And we actually kind of become part of the story, and we kind of go through all the emotions the main person, for example, in one of the songs, the heroine, what she goes through, what she thinks about. It's just if you watch a movie, you enjoy what it is there, but when you play music, you actually get into the real story there, be a part of it, and have a really nice time. You actually go through all those things, and I'm sure that's something that people would love. It's music as well as the dramatical part coming together. So.
Hi, my name is Kiran Athreya, and I play the South Indian classical Carnatic violin. My guru's name is Delhi P. Sundarajan, and I play violin and continue to play violin today because it's a very big part of my family's history and cultural tradition. I come from a family full of musicians and dancers, and it's kind of a way that we kind of keep in touch with our culture and tradition, and something that's really allowed me to continue playing violin and music today is a big group of musicians, young artists, and we all play together and grew up together and kind of help nurture each other and support the art, and that is true till today. And that's something that's allowed me to really continue this and enjoy doing it as we move along. Well, there's a very traditional form of music and art, and just through tutelage and handing it down from generation to generation is how we keep such an art alive today. Well, music is an art form, and I would say music, specifically instrumental music, is a great way of expressing yourself if you're not that much of an extrovert. So it's a way that we can kind of show our emotions and our thoughts and different things through different, I would say through different scales, we're able to express ourselves, and that's something that I've always enjoyed doing.